Talk about this hair care company. Reported its earnings, great numbers here, and here to discuss all about this is the company's CEO, Ju-Yi Wang. Thank you so much for being with us. All my friends are talking about Olaplex. They love it. I know you had great quarter looking at the earnings and revenue, great sales here in the United States. You must be extremely pleased. Tell us a little bit about the quarter and the outlook.
Yes.
To get the, fame and obviously the brand following that you have, obviously hair care folks use this. The Kardashians are touting Olaplex. I mean, you really have a huge following. Did you expect it to be so big so fast? Because you had the IPO last year and that was even raised higher as well. And when we look at Olaplex, the hashtag nearly 13 million times across social media platforms. You mentioned the hairstylists and what a big part, huge part of your business that really is, because without them really saying how great it is for your hair when you're sitting in the chair, right? So the word of mouth and each stylist telling you to use it. I mean, you have different materials and different products. Some of it is to use at home, to condition hair. Tell me a little bit about each of them. I know you recently changed a little bit of the ingredients on one just to be evermost cost. At home USA, 95% growth. International growth was 61%. You're certainly growing very quickly. I'm not sure how you keep the pace up and what kind of penetration you have around the globe at this point. I mean, it sounds like you really have a lot that you can do here. I want to leave a moment for International Women's Day, but I would love for you to explain the skinification of hair, because it's in the notes and you just mentioned it, and I just want everybody to really understand. Yeah. And just a final thought, it is International Women's Day, and it's our honor to have you on today. A woman battling in business, growing a great international business at this point. A thought, a memory, a challenge, advice?
Yeah, I think what I'm most proud of is that
breaking ground with something very new and exciting and in hot demand, and no doubt. Ju-Yi Wang, thank you for being on with us. I look forward to chatting again soon. Appreciate it very much. Ju-Yi Wang, CEO of Olaplex. Thank you. Tell us a little bit about this one, which is up about 7% right now as we speak. George.
Yeah, SolarEdge is actually one of the largest, if not the second largest company.
Be needing more and more energy sources, renewable and clean energy, that we won't be able to just focus on oil as much as we have in the past, and all of this comes at costs. In the meantime, you mentioned some of the competition and some of the other players in the group, and you also have an example trade for us, George.
Sure, yeah, so you got to...
Thank you for that. I appreciate it very much. George Silas with SolarEdge today, SEDG, our disruptor of the day. Thank you, George.
Thanks, Nicole.
Coming up next, education and research at MarketGauge.com. Thank you both for being with us. Of course, the NASDAQ now in bear market territory, 20% off the highs. Kim, I'll start with you. I know you said you're really looking for value and that there are tech names where there is still some great value now, even though people have stepped away from these growth names, right?
Sure. Well, in times of trouble, I think people gravitate to companies.
Theoretically, right, in the long term, a lot of these tech names have potential to go higher. Mies Schneider, I know you were looking at Cathie Wood's ARK Fund. You were talking about names like Tesla. How, as a pro in the business, and that's why we have these conversations, is so that people can learn and try and get a little bit from each of you and your professional aspect. Your thoughts, Mies?
Well, I have a bit of a different perspective in that I think that the growth...
There are some names that people love to watch and follow and talk about. Kim, you were looking at names like Micron and others such as 3M and PNC. You're looking at these because you like to be an optimist. Explain why these are some names that you own.
Sure.
Kim.
Well, I think it has a clearer shorter term turnaround than, let's say,
to talk about some of the big names that we follow, such as Microsoft. You're keeping an eye on that. Apple today has a big announcement where they're bringing 5G cellular connectivity to some of the cheapest phones. Also, third generation iPhone SE sales. That's something which have done so incredibly well. Anyway, Mies, your thoughts on names like Apple and Microsoft?
I'm really glad you brought up Apple because, yes, today.
And Kim, the same question to you. I know you talk about Microsoft and Apple. We've talked about some of the suppliers and the cell towers and things like that. We've expanded it out. Your thoughts?
Sure. I think 5G is still in early days.
Thank you for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole.
Good to see you both. And Barron's 100 most influential women in U.S. finance again. Right? And I always love to see that. Congratulations on that. Again, Lizanne, really shaping the future for financial services each day. With that, what's the market telling you now as you expect more volatility and some downside risk? This kind of phrase. I think you're right. I mean, because there's no exact place to hide, no perfect hedge or place to hide, right? And while this volatility is really evident, sometimes it could be short-lived. You know, in a year from now, are we going to be seeing anything similar? But at the same time, the momentum could be so dramatic. Like to your point, right? The Dow was up over 580 points today, only to see it move negative a short time ago. So at this point now, are you still looking at some of the same sectors that we discussed, such as healthcare, financials, utilities?
We've been
Said to us last time you were on, it was in your note again today, about the looking for quality and those low quality names or SPACs or a meme, the chaos of the meme stocks maybe in the rearview mirror here at this point. I think it's really important to continue to focus on some of these things that you are looking at, and that's interest rates and the flattening of the yield curve, a slowing economy, inflation. We'll get a CPI print, the Fed next week, and how many hikes. You know, what the Fed does with the balance sheet can also equate hike or two or three. Tell us some of your thoughts when it comes to all of that. Out of time, but maybe you can give me a quick thought on the consumer that's battling high gas prices, inflation, and doesn't seem to be abating anytime soon. At the same time, it is International Women's Day, and maybe you had a thought, an experience, a piece of advice, something that you could add in. But maybe a thought on the consumer and a thought on International Women's Day.
I wish it was a better comment, but I think recession risk is real.
Yeah, it's great to see you. Lizanne Saunders, always wonderful to have you on the show. Schwab Center for Financial Research. Thank you. Always.
Thanks, Nicole.
Chief Investment Strategist there, Lizanne Saunders. Thank you. And today at 4 p.m. Eastern, yesterday was the worst day for stocks when you look at the S&P 500 since 2020. And we've seen huge swings today. What's an investor to do? What are your thoughts here?
Wow, not just
the U.S. isn't fully dependent on Russia, and while we have some occurrences here, very real, whether we see oil and the ban there or something else happening, you don't think that this is going to be recessionary. Why is that? You invest in the market because you did make the note here, when you look at geopolitical events and then the years after, most of them don't really knock the stock market down. Thank you so much. Gina Bolvin, it's great to see you, president of Bolvin Wealth Management. Always great to have you on the show. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Nicole.
In finance, because today is Women's International Day. So we'll continue that, and we'll have some long-term investor, founder, CIO of Kramer Capital Research. Thank you both for being with me today. Glad that you're able to join us for this special day, but it's something that we do every single day. Arwen, I'll start with you. I mean, your clients must be scratching their heads, calling you sort of neurotically as they see these big swings and momentum. What do you tell them? And I think to your point, right, when you have that diversification and you make your plan, you're basically set up for some wild swings. But I'm not sure that people just sit quietly. Hillary, Kramer, they must still be worried. What are you feeling about this market, the volatility? I know you brought some stock picks for us too, which I want to get to in a moment. But are you seeing opportunity as well? I understand. And so with that, Arwen, you're saying that you really need to be confident in your plan so that you don't have this confusion or emotional investing, and that's the worst, right? When people try to make those moves. You talked about rebalancing. What are just really these final thoughts here that are the must? Your picks here, obviously, you have a couple of names in finance. I saw Goldman Sachs on there, as well as Citigroup. You have Gap and Newell Brands as some of the names. You talked about EVs a little bit, watching Ford, and we have a very big inflation picture at the same time. Are these all names that you would consider for a portfolio? How do you get into some of the names that you're suggesting? And Hillary, a few seconds on International Women's Day. Any thoughts or advice for women quickly, Hillary?
Find a mentor. That's the way to go. I'm really proud of the women in the Ukraine that are making all the difference. And I hope that here in the United States, one day we do have a president who is a woman. When we think about 200 years of women being president, even in countries where women seemingly don't have the rights.
Arwen, your thoughts?
You know,
Yeah, without a doubt. Arwen Becker and Hillary Kramer, thank you both very, very much. I always enjoy our conversations. Thank you. And thank you, friends, for joining me here on The Watch List every single weekday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget, join me at 4 p.m. today for Twitter Spaces, where we have that special discussion. I hope to see you there. And keep it right here, because Market on